So when we talking about deserving and who decides what is deserved, right? Or really, it's not even who decides, it's who we give our power to, or who we derive our power from. Let me turn this air down. I don't want it to get too, in your ears. Who we give the power to decide if we are worthy of a blessing or not, of a series of blessings or not. But going back to the fact that it's seasonal, right? And it's become so obvious to me now that I went through such a rough late summer, even before my birthday. My birthday is in late August. Rough summer last year, and I didn't really rise out of it. I mean, there were several stages of rising out of it. So like, I would think that I rose out of it, and then I would reach a new rise, and I'm like, oh, okay. And it's until now that's we're almost a year later. Almost a year later from that whole season, and I'm just like, first of all, I can't believe some of the things I was willing to do for connection. But then it's also, I'm so glad that I learned it the easy way, which was kind of the hard way, right? Like, everything all at once type, collapse of the self-image in like one destabilizing moment, and was not anticipating that at all and did not know how to receive it. Now I feel like I know exactly how I would receive it, So deserving, God. All right, well, first we would need to decide on the God. Once you decide that, then you would need to decide how diligent will you be in following its program, right? Most gods have strict programs. Some things with strict programs are good. Trust me. But I'm not necessarily condoning, giving power away to a god. Because ye are gods, right? Ye could be gods. Now, I don't necessarily feel like most people are God level for real. And that's myself included. I feel like godliness is a faculty that can be, developed just like any other faculty. But you would need a very stable handful of prerequisite faculties, like self-regulation, right? When you're agitated and the nervous system is anxious or depressed, anxious or depressed, right? It's a spectrum. All that, And then once you decide how diligent you are, and then you put that into practice, well, then now it seems like it'll be a never-ending appeasement cycle, several recurring appeasement cycles to whatever deity you have chosen to give your power to. Right? And some may say, what do you mean give your power to? Like, I'm powerless. No, you're not powerless. You're not powerless because you at least have the power to decide who to give your power to, right? So if it's really like that, well, then at some point it becomes okay. This is mostly a thing about how much benefit will you derive from structure. Most people, I feel like, and I know I picked up the pace very, I want to respect your time as much as as my faculties allow. Most people derive great benefit from structure, and the more structure, the better. Even in development, right? Child development, adolescent development, certainly early adulthood. It seems like the more structure you have about how you handle things, how you do things, well, that will be to your benefit, right? That's actually to your benefit. So it's just become so obvious to me now that people run to the most convenient solutions or pseudo solutions. We'll say it's because it's not temporary solutions, it's partial solutions to spirituality, right? People run to the most convenient partial solutions for spirituality. The easiest thing would be to proclaim that you believe something and now you are saved. That's like the easiest thing. Now, to walk that walk is at another level of difficulty, and it's quite a bit higher, But then it's also, when do you stop separating your conscience from who you call God? Because if your conscience is as clean as I feel most human beings' consciences are, well, then that would probably be the most direct line to godliness. What your conscience is telling you about the situation, about a person, about an idea, right? About an activity. That would be the closest thing to God. It's interesting, the monotheistic mind and the polytheistic mind are two very distinct things. The polytheistic mind seems to understand that, yes, there is one supreme source. However, the source is so supreme that for it to manifest in a world like this, it needs intermediaries, right? It needs other entities that it can work through, including other people in your life, right? God works through the people in your life. Why not? So, and I don't mean for it to say that God isn't powerful enough. And by the way, I keep using the term God as if we've agreed on a God, but I know that we haven't. So it's a bit interesting to open this discussion. For me, I don't want to get too deep into who one of the most famous gods really is. Really, all three Abrahamic religion gods, like, it's kind of the same demi-urge, Yada. If you know, you know. I don't even know if I want to, use that term on this channel, because it can go left into esotericism very quickly, you know, and I'm not sure if that's really beneficial to most people, you know, because not only would you need to study it, then you would need to learn how to apply it through the symbolism and archetypes in your life, which I find very useful, right? That's pretty much what keeps me at least curious about spirituality. And by spirituality, you can say spiritualism. There's so many other words I can use, but yeah, spirituality, which starts with the breath. Let's just get that basic thing out of the way, right? Starts with the breath. And then, you know, I've been learning about this thing through Enki where God seems to, at least a lot of cultures, if not all cultures, have a storm god and a solar god. And in the Bible, the storm god and solar god is known as Yahweh. In Hebrew, you spell it Yod He Vav He. Yod He Vav He. Right? Yod He Vav He. Right? Each one of those letters, so Yod equals 10, He equals 5, Vav equals 6, another He equals 5. Right? It should equal 26. So those of you who listen to J. Cole, whenever he said 2-6 or whatever, I'm like, like, I know J. Cole ain't no dummy. You don't just get up there by being a fucking dummy. Especially, you know, all due respect as a black man. You don't just get up there by being a fucking dummy, you know. So, yes, I had to put it that way, you know. But it's crazy. I learned through Enki that the weather is the #1 topic of information searched on the internet every day, worldwide. Right? Worldwide. The weather. And it's interesting because a god like Yahweh, who's a solar and a storm god, well then clearly people even on the internet are seeking God, right? God manifests through weather. Literally nothing in the earth gets done without its atmosphere. And that's a clear regard to its weather, you know? So I'm not gonna just like talk about that type of information. If you want, you can go to Dr. Enki's channel and, you know, sit through those types of lectures, but because they're very long lectures, I recommend like 0.5 speed or even double speed on like the times where it's just rambles, you know. But very good information. Anyway, it's hard to decide where to go from here, because I just told you like God may be the weather, and to some people it's like they would really have a much less practical image, and I say that with all due respect. They rather have a much less practical image of God, right? They rather have a personification of God, or just like a feeling of God, which feeling may be the best thing for you, but the weather is the most clear indication of how the forces that truly govern us, are doing, you know, that truly govern us. Nature makes us feel like we could play. Nature makes us feel like we could play. But if nature wants to turn this thing up, it could do that in a heartbeat, you know. I almost want to say, God forbid, you know, I hope everyone is like going through a safe environment right now when you're listening to this video. I doubt you would be like in the middle of some flood listening to some random guy on YouTube, but just, you know, just putting that out there. These are just streams of consciousness. I want to open discussions, and in order to do that, I need to have some input from you. Hopefully you've learned something from me tonight that is useful to you. not just for the sake of learning something. And you could drop a comment and let me know something. You could teach me. Each one teach one. That way the cipher is complete. So I look forward to sharing something else with you.